Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to today's webinar on redefining customer experience for the digital age, presented to you by the Sri Lankan Institute of Directors CEO Forum. Please do not miss to have a closer look at our flyer, where you will find our partner logos of ACCA, the Institute of Chartered Accountants, and of course, our daily FT. Thank you to the partners. We are live broadcasting on the Facebook pages of our partners, ACCA, CA, Daily FT, and our own SLID Facebook page. The primary objective of the SLID CEO Forum is to provide a platform for CEOs of companies in the private and public sector to interact with one another, share experiences, learn, and build the key competencies required to perform their roles effectively. Certainly, our today's subject matter has changed dramatically over the last 2 years and deserves an exchange and a debate for further elaboration. I'm very happy we could find a mastermind in this topic with our keynote speaker, Professor Jochen Wirtz, Vice Dean and Professor of Marketing at the National University of Singapore, best-selling author, keynote speaker, consultant, and guru of services marketing. Given his busy schedule, Professor Wirtz will only be with us for about half an hour before his duty calls him back. Therefore, and without further ado, I invite Jochen on stage and hand over the further proceedings to our keynote speaker, Professor Jochen Wirtz. Jochen, the stage is yours.
Thank you so much, Rolf. And I must say, it's really nice to hear you pronounce my name so perfectly. It's a very difficult name. Many people don't know how to pronounce my name. So thank you. No, good evening, everyone. I'm absolutely delighted to be here. My keynote is about a topic I'm absolutely passionate about and have been doing research and consulting and thinking on for the last 5-6 years, perhaps. And why I'm so excited about is I believe that we are at an inflection point in our economies. We had the agricultural revolution in the late 18th century, we had the industrial revolution, and I believe when we look back 50 or 100 years from now, that we will say in the 2020s, that is when the service revolution started. So I tell my kids and my undergraduate students, you're so lucky. You're going to see all of these exciting developments that are going to come, and we can't even imagine now. So why I believe we are about to move into an accelerated service revolution is basically because everything is coming together now. The technology improves by the month almost, and we are talking about everything from RPA, physical robots, facial recognition, biometrics, natural language processing, machine learning, the cloud, mobile technologies, IoT, you name it. And all of this is getting more powerful almost by the month. The innovation is happening at all of these frontiers. And I believe that what we had with the Industrial Revolution that gave us high quality goods on scale at low cost. I mean, we can buy so many physical goods now, they don't cost a lot for most developed countries at least. And that we will have the same also for the service sector now. And there's an insatiable demand for services such as healthcare, such as education, but also entertainment, hospitality, leisure, travel, and all of that. And that's, as I said, we are at the brink of this revolution. And I believe at least the gents in the audience here, when we go to a hairdresser in 5 years, there will be a smart mirror that superimposes based on an AI analysis of your head shape and face shape and analysis of the hair we have on what could be done with our hair, and you just swipe is like on Tinder, what you swipe what you like and don't like, and you click go when you found what you like, and your hair will be cut. So that's going to be our future here. So I mean, we have the 3 revolutions, and I think now what we're going to see is scalable service solutions for services that are currently still very, very expensive. And we're not talking about one technology here. People always talk about AI or robotics, right? That's not what's exciting about here. It's exciting to do scalable end-to-end customer service processes and customer service here. And what's required for that is at least these 4 capabilities are like senses here. The first is vision. You have to get the environment into the computer, into the system here. That's computer vision, is biometrics, is text recognition. So all of those. The next is execution. You have to do stuff, right? If you want to issue a travel insurance and you want to have this end-to-end automated, the AI or the robotic or the intelligent automation has to be able to issue a legally valid travel insurance. Or so there has to be approval, it has to be sent out, a certificate has to be sent out. And of course, that's all digital and via email or via an app, but it has to be done. But even if there's an interconnect to physical processes, if you do end-to-end acquisition and issuing of credit cards, the welcome pack with a physical card has to be sent. And I mean, that all can be automated today. The next capability is really natural language. And I mean, you have to get, whether it is written text or whether it is spoken text or language, the technology has to make sense of it. So we need natural language processing. And the last one is, of course, thinking and learning. And this is machine learning, this is analytics, this is making sense out of a lot of stuff here. So these 4 capabilities together allow you to develop scalable service solutions. Now, what can be automated? That really depends on 3 main dimensions here. And I show you one quick chart on each of them. The first one is this service tangible in nature? Is it about something physical that needs to be done, or is it intangible in nature? Is it data processing, information, and these kinds of things? Is the core of the service cognitive and analytical, or is it social and emotional? And the last one is, how often does it happen? And if it happens, how heterogeneous or homogeneous is each of the executions? Now, the first one is it tangible or intangible? And if you look at YouTube and you look at the media, they're all so excited, go Google Gaga over Hana Hotel in Japan with their many robots on storage of suitcases, room service delivery and all of that. Yes, the physical robots that greet you in hotels and hospitals. They're, of course, developing fast. But that's not where the fastest development is. The fastest development at the moment is in what we call an intangible type of services. So any service that you can deliver via a call center, via chat, via email, via an app, via talking to someone, even if it's a physical encounter, this is the type of stuff that can be automated very fast, and that's happening right now. At the moment, the fastest shrinking job category in the US is retail assistants. And why? Because, of course, Amazon and e-commerce. But more than that, even in the shops, even when people go into the shop to buy something, often they don't ask anymore the shop assistant on the products, but they just Google, right? I mean, if you want to buy a printer or a screen and you go into the shop, you see this there, you Google what is the review and is that suitable for me and all of that. So that cuts down time needed for retail assistants. And so these are the type of services. I mean, this is retailing here, but all this information type of services, what will happen is accelerating incredibly. You just think about call center automation. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of seats that are being made redundant because of smarter service design and call center automation here. And I mean, I can give you a quick example. My MBA program, that is almost 2 years ago now, my team, two people do admissions. They get thousands of applications. They never had anything to do with technology, but we could sense that we cannot cope with the volume anymore. So we said, why don't we build a chatbot to do this? And actually, it wasn't that difficult. And we have a license for IBM Watsons. So we use IBM Watson as the engine, put this on our website now. And I was stunned the first month after going live. We had 20,000 unique conversations over, do I need GMAT? Do you have scholarships? When is the deadline? So all of the stupid and boring and whatever kind of stuff is being handled by the chatbot now, right? So, I mean, this is really where it's going. And let me give one other example, even where we think about physical services. So you look at Changi Airport in Singapore. Changi always tries to be one of the best airports in the world. But if you look at the information counters there, there's one counter per terminal per story. And these are very expensive services because I have expensive headcount sitting there, 24 hours a day, 3 shifts. And it's very an expensive retail space. And at the same time, it's terribly inconvenient for customers because if you're on one end of the terminal, but the information counter is in the center, that doesn't help you. And at the car park, nobody is there to guide you anywhere. I mean, how do I find my car, right? But here, I mean, I promise you in 3 to 5 years, you have holograms beamed from the ceiling every 50 meters. They're powered by a central engine where you have 20 most common languages are spoken. All of the cost is in the development. The incremental cost of adding one sort of what you call digital person or holograph every 50 meters is negligible. It's just a beamer. It's a microphone, is a speaker. So I can put those even into the car park. And it's not that there's no human supervision anymore, but all terminals and all levels and all of these digital agents, if you will, they are connected, and there is an overflow at the end. If an digital agent can't handle a question, there's a person behind that speaks through this agent and will address this question and at the same time teach the AI. So this is really the fastest moving part is this any type of information and processing, and in this industries like telco, insurance, banking, but even stuff such as making reservations, changing them, canceling, and then all of this kind of stuff is all can be done with this technology here. Here, the next one, what is the core purpose of the service? So is that emotional and social, or is this cognitive and analytical? And you can see simple emotional processes of any degree of complexity will be fully handled end-to-end by technology, by robots here, and not by people anymore. Then if it becomes emotional, socially more complex, this is really where we speak about the feeling economy. This will be people, and this is anything from marriage counseling, PhD supervision, going on whitewater rafting adventure where you want a real person screaming with you rather than a robot, right? But even stuff where emotions can be very high, such as service failure, service recovery, complaint handling. I mean, these are the kind of things I think that will stay with most effectively with people. And then the interesting part is when it gets very complex on both dimensions. This is where we talk about people and technology teams here. And I mean, I promise you in 10 years, if a medical doctor in America misdiagnoses an illness that could have been captured with a very simple AI support here, that doctor can be sued for malpractice. Yeah. I'll give you an example. My daughter came from Singapore to Germany, and we all had dengue fever, but she was fine. But when she was in Germany, she developed fever, so she went to the doctor. Her doctor had never seen a dengue case in her life. I mean, there's no dengue in Germany. And so my daughter told the doctor, I mean, I think it's dengue. Can you just test for that? And I just came from Singapore. My family had it. And then the doctor said, okay, and they did a blood test. But with AI support in the future, what you will have is the AI runs in the backdrop, patient data are sitting in it, and whatever the doctor discusses with the patient will be captured by the AI, and the AI will put out a hit list on what are the likely illnesses here, what's the likely diagnosis, and it will come up then with 99.9% dengue fever. And then the doctor can ask, oh, have you been in the tropics recently? And if the patient says yes, then let's say, I mean, it seems all your symptoms, they match dengue. Let's test for dengue. Okay, so you can see where this technology is going. The next one is how often does it happen and how heterogeneous is it? And you can see all the stuff that happens a lot and is each time the same. We will have robots for that. This is our room service in a hotel. On the other extreme, there are jobs that are so varied. For the foreseeable future, we won't have robots to deal with this. And I just think about a handyman in a hotel. That man has to fix a carpet, fix a drawer, change a light bulb, open a safe, open a door. There's no robot that can do this for the foreseeable future. So that person's job is safe. And in between is interesting. I mean, this will be like in manufacturing. The jobs that first got automated were the dangerous jobs, the heavy lifting jobs, and the unpleasant jobs. And this is also where we will have a lot more technology come in. And I mean, you think about Japan is leading already in robots in healthcare, for example. So nurses have a hard time lifting heavy patients out of beds into wheelchairs or bathtubs. And this literal heavy lifting here is going to be done by robots already. Now, what I was talking about is physical processes here. This line gets pushed down a lot more when we talk about intangible processes. If I'm a hotel chain that has thousands of hotels, maybe a certain process happens at the individual hotel level only 10 times a day. But if it is an intangible process, information processing process, I can aggregate across all hotels. I've been thousands of transactions per day across the entire chain. And let's say I do spa reservations. I will have an app for that. I have an AI for that. And it will be designed for the entire chain, just it will be white labeled for that hotel, where the hotel then can put its brand and its logo and so on. But you can see intangible processes, the break even for using technology is going to be a lot lower. Now, we are excited about scalable end-to-end customer service processes where there's no more touch by employees here. Yeah, and I want to show you how to do this. Is not with one technology. That's an integration of a lot of technologies here. So what I have here is one example of a bank in New Zealand. My co-author Pascal Bonnet was working on this when he was with McKinsey. They did a complete digitization of ANZ services. And this is an end-to-end fully automated loan process. So from acquisition to the customer to issuing the loan, no employee has to touch that process. It's fully scalable. Yeah, so I don't want to go through the details here, but you can see it's not one technology, it's everything, right? Is machine learning, language processing, is vision, is RPA, is interconnect to the police, to credit rating, to all sorts of other things, and so on. And let me show, I hope it works, but I have a short video here. ANZ introduced 3 years ago Jamie, that is their digital agent. And Jamie has been serving millions of customer transactions since. You can watch her on YouTube on what she does today. So what I'm showing you is 3 months after the launch. And it's done by a company called Soul Machines. And their core business is digital people. You can also look them up on YouTube. You can create your own customer service agents in terms of ethnic group, skin color, hair type, hair length, eye colors, facial shape, everything. You can play around with it. These are levers. And you then design your digital customer service agent here. And so let's have a look at Jamie. So it works with the video. So you met Jamie. Pascal he's the lead author of a book we have on intelligent automation. If you'd like to have a copy, just contact me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to give you a free PDF if you like. Yeah, or you can buy the Kindle version here in this. But there are 500 use cases on intelligent automation here. And the other thing I have is I've been doing a lot of academic research on intelligent automation and service robots, and on ResearchGate, which is sort of the key website or community, if you will, where academics meet and exchange. You just can use this QR code here and connect or just hunt me down on ResearchGate and download those papers. Most of the papers are downloadable for free. So let me say thank you, and I look forward to our discussion.
Jochen, thank you very much. You actually scared me for a moment. So I'm going to lose my job as a CEO, if that is correct. I'm happy that I'm attending this show today. So I think my advice is I'm just going to buy a machine and I then deploy that machine. But on a serious note, Jochen, I have 2 questions before I hand over to the moderation. What is your recommendation to people like me, or I'm sure other viewers right now, your recommendation to the CEOs of this world, in our case of Sri Lanka? How can we prepare to basically master this future, which is going to be very, very different from the present?
I think you need to do both top-down and bottom-up innovation. And I mean, it's like any digital transformation. So, and I mean, in our book, we describe nicely, we can think about center of excellence to create an in-house team to help you with those things. And the other is bottom up. That is, I mean, for example, I mean, I run an MBA program office here at the business school. I have 35 staff in my team. And I run annual and innovation awards for them. And on one hand, so I really promote people who automate processes. In a university, we shuffle a lot of paper, which is non-value adding work, but I can't increase headcount. I'm building experiential learning. So I need to reshift my headcount towards value adding customer service activities. That means all the low value added stuff I want to have online. Yes, I want to have self-service on this. And what I've done is every one of my staff has done a course in analytics on RPA and automation courses. And these are very short courses. They can be half an hour, 2 hours, half a day kind of courses. And I tell everyone, look, jump on this, because in 5 years, if you do not know how to do Tableau, or if you do not know how to do simple RPA applications, that's as good if today you don't know Microsoft Office. So I mean, I bottom up means I tell everyone you have to develop your own skills. I give you the money for the courses, and I have innovation teams. I feature them, I promote them, and I give awards, even monetary awards for them. And the top down, I mean, I'm not a CEO, so I do have a provost and president and dean here. But they're on board, and I mean, what I'm getting from them as a vice dean here is the empowerment. So you as CEOs, I think you have to push the whole top down, this whole culture towards intelligent automation, digitization. That's one thing. The other thing I warn of is to do stuff in-house. There is no need for you to develop a new chatbot or scheduling. I mean, for example, any restaurant or dentist or any office or anything where you have to schedule, if you still do this via email or telephone, you're wasting everyone's time, right? For example, I mean, there's so many off-the-shelf solutions for that allow you to white label with your logo and whatever you want on it, and you just plug it into your app, into your website, or whatever you use. I mean, one example, my team, they do interviews for MBA admissions, and we do thousands of interviews. It used to be a nightmare to schedule those. And now it's just an online self-service thing. You schedule your interview. If you need to change it, you change it yourself. And now my staff doesn't waste any time on it anymore on anything with the interview management, for example. So I think these are the 3 things. Number 1 is you need a top-down strategy. You need a bottom-up, exciting everyone and bringing them on board. And the last one is do not get into this trap of trying to build too much stuff on your own. I mean, it's much better to get things off the shelf. Even if you work with sort of small startups and you are sort of a test ground for them and do this, but I would not move into trying to build solutions. I mean, whenever people tell me it's not available, I just Google and say, look, there are at least 50 startups on that. Why do you want to waste your own resources? I mean, I think these would be my 3 key recommendations.
Super, thank you very much. Very, very good insights. Very good insights. So I know where to focus and I know where to look at. I think I will find a lot on your LinkedIn page as well. So my second question before I hand over to the moderation is on governance. Do you have any comments on these trends? What will be the impact and what will happen with governance of companies?
I mean, actually, we are, as we speak, we are starting a big research project on corporate digital responsibility, and I think this is something we all have to take seriously. I mean, of course, I'm quite I'm a believer in markets and market economies. So in terms of governance, I mean, there will be major issues, of course, or there can potentially be major issues with unemployment if you do not reskill and retool and change the education system. But I don't quite think that is the job of companies. That is really the job of the countries, governments, and public sector here rather than individuals. In our book, we have sort of two chapters. One is a pessimistic scenario, which means we run out of work. There are not enough jobs. And so we discuss the implications there. And the other is what many economists believe, it won't be any different from the past. Every new innovation actually has created more jobs than it killed jobs. But nevertheless, there are heart-wrenching changes in between. I mean, we all read about the stories, the weavers in England who stormed the factory with a weaving machinery because it was taking their jobs. I think it's the wrong approach trying to protect jobs because you can't stop technology. They will go sooner or later. By protecting it, you're hurting everyone. So I think companies should probably work on, and this is, I mean, Pascal has been working on hundreds of digitization projects, and one thing they never did was fire people. They always worked on redeploying, re-educating, retraining, and reskilling people. And the nice thing is actually that most of the jobs that are gone were not very attractive jobs, and the new jobs tend to be better because, I mean, what we automate is the boring, repetitive stuff. But that's a long discussion, of course, right? I mean, and I mean the ethical discussion in-house. I mean, that is going to be very interesting. I mean, companies like Facebook and Amazon, they have no interest in too much of an oversight because it directly eats into their profits. So I think at some point regulation will have to come in because I do not quite believe that companies will leave a pot of gold untouched if it's there.
Super. Thank you very much, Jochen. I know you have to log off soon, but if you have maybe another 5 minutes, I can see Nikhil is
I have. Don't worry.
Yes, super fantastic. I think Nikhil is burning his also having one or two questions. It's great to have you here. So with this, I would like to introduce the eminent panel we have here in our discussion. We have online Vipula, Gunatilleke, the former CEO of Sri Lankan Airlines and currently CFO of Jet Airways, calling us from Delhi, India. Then we have Dr. Rajiv Meewakkala, Director CEO of Lion Breweries. Lion Breweries is a local, or I think the local beer brand in Sri Lanka, something which I'm going to have in half an hour from now. And then we have Kanika Sangi, Director Partner, Center for Customer Insight from the Boston Consulting Group, and Karim Mawani, CEO founder, Bookingwhizz Ltd from UK. And the moderator is no other than Nikhil Advani, the CEO of AIA Insurance in Sri Lanka. Nikhil, handing over to you.
Thank you, Rolf, and thank you, Jochen, for a very invigorating session. I think lots to learn and clearly lots to do. If I may just start with a little bit about my own company and how we've started to see the benefits of technology, bringing it into sort of real space for us. I think last year we brought in 3 bots, and we have 34 of our processes now automated. And most of these are back office processes, just like you said, mundane things that, you know, I think people went home and kicked the dog after they spent time, you know, at work. Very unhappy kind of experience, which I think as we've automated, we've seen what was about 40 hours a week of work come down to a couple of hours by the bots. And we've seen employees much happier, and actually our NPS score starts to go up as well. So there's clear benefits of bringing technology into all our businesses. And I'm delighted to welcome the panel, as Rolf rightly said, you know, very diverse industries, very diverse experiences. I'm really looking forward to a very interesting conversation with each of you. Let me start with you, Jochen, before you go off for your next meeting. I think you mentioned something about the automation technology, and you talked about homogeneity or heterogeneity of service. I do have a question. I mean, I love this technology and I love the fact that you can leverage it to such a great scale, but there's something missing. The human element, that moment of delight, somebody smiling at you. I loved the robot that you showed, but how do you overcome that? I mean, how do you substitute that human touch, and what are we trading off? I'm sorry to ask a very difficult question, but I think it should be asked.
No, Nikhil, absolute fantastic question. Thank you for asking it. I think that there are two things to this. Number one, everyone who asks me is, I'm going to miss the human touch. I just turn around and ask everyone, when was the last time you went inside a bank to cash money from a human teller rather than the ATM?
True.
Yeah.
True.
So if people miss the human touch so much, they would go to the human teller. But why do they go to the ATM? Why? It's 24 hours, no queue, fast, many locations. Yeah. And the same thing is, I mean, I did work here with DBS in Singapore and other companies. And one of our thinking, and most of the time, is for 98% of all calls that hit a call center, the thinking is this call is a service failure. Why? The customer doesn't want to talk to you. Don't tell me any one of you says, I'm so happy I have to talk to my bank about my credit card today. We don't, right? We don't want to talk. We do not want to talk to you, number one.
True.
And you as a company also don't want to talk to the customer, because this call, I don't know in Sri Lanka, but in Singapore, the call cost me $5 to $10 to $15 to do if I fully load the cost into it. And I mean, DBS Development Bank of Singapore here, I mean, they won twice World's Best Digital Bank Award. And I like their thinking, because what they do is they analyze, why do people call my call center? And for example, one call, and because it's more than just automation, it is also changing products, processes, policies, making them simpler so that they can be end-to-end automated. So they really analyze what are the calls, and they're very cute stories. I mean, for example, 3 to 5% of all calls were because the ATM ate the credit card or the cash card of a customer. And we can predict with 99.9% probability this customer is going to call you in the next 3 working days. Your ATM ate my card, right? So what they did is they said, look, the minute the card is taken, of course, that is captured. They sent a push message to the customer. Dear customer, the Clementi branch ate. We know that the Clementi branch withheld your credit card. There's a failure or whatever on it. We will send you a new credit card within 3 working days. If you do not want a new credit card, please reply with N. This very simple push message cut, I've forgotten how many thousands of calls per annum for the bank. So, I mean, I agree, we all like face-to-face interactions, but only where they add value. Yeah. So if I buy a mortgage product and I'm not too sure, I rather talk to someone, or life insurance. These are high involvement, high investment kind of services where I mean, most people would prefer a person rather than some robo-advisor or something like this. So I think I would go case by case, and not everyone is familiar and happy with digital. But I mean, my experience is that after some transformation period here, that, I mean, 70+% are happy to go fully digital. And for me, I mean, I always use Google, Wise, Revolut, these kind of fintechs and companies as benchmarks. I mean, I have a Wise account, which is a UK fintech here. I've never spoken to anyone. I'm very happy with their service. I've never emailed to anyone. I've been using this product now for over a year. I have accounts, because I have a developer in India for my website. I pay him in Indian rupees. I can send euro, US dollars, British pounds, Sing dollars into that account. I can shift the money around. I just came back from a holiday in Indonesia, so I paid in Indonesian rupiahs. And the exchange rates are so much better than any credit card or than any other payment method. And the beauty is the onboarding was 35 seconds. Why? It was with a SingPass, which is the Singapore government ID kind of thing. I loaded everything in and I was done. So I think I would be careful with saying people want face-to-face or human touch. Most of the time they want a working product or working service, and actually they'd rather not talk to you.
And that's a beautiful point you made. And actually it's one that is a central point of debate, heated debate amongst, two streams of thought within organizations, mine included. Some want that high touch for everything, which to your point, I think the customers evolved well past that. And you're right. I don't remember the last time I went to the bank for anything meaningful. So yes, you're right. Spot on.
Yeah. So I'm not saying do everything, right? I'm just saying this is people feel very cautious about it, and especially Europeans. So if I go to Germany, this is sort of people are very much into the human touch, yes, but I think we can be more gung-ho going digital than we are. Customers actually would be happier rather than not happy.
Yeah, absolutely. No question. Does the panel have any questions for Jochen? I don't know how much time you have, Jochen, so I just want to make sure that we're not imposing too much.
Fine. I can stay until 8 o'clock. But then I have to leave here.
Excellent. Does anybody else have a question for Jochen, or otherwise I'm going to just throw a few more at you as the panel answers theirs as well. All right. So stick on as long as you can. We'd love to have you on. So panel, I'm going to start with a couple of easy ones, and then, we'll get into a few more specific questions for each of your industries. So I read somewhere that, a decade of digital transformation has happened in the last couple of years, maybe last year and a half, as COVID lockdowns forced us all to think about change at speed and scale. And as CEOs of very diverse industries, how did you approach that aspect of customer experience as you went, very quickly into lockdown and had to reinvent yourselves into creating digital experiences? So was there a quick fix? Was there a right fix? Was there a quick fix first and then sort of a journey? How did you balance the immediate demands and the tight timelines, and how satisfied are you with the progress you made since then? So I'm going to start with, let's say, Vipula. You're in the airline industry and leader of that. So can you share a little bit more about that, please?
Yeah, I think during the pandemic and the lockdown, we were compelled to make certain quick fixes. But if you go back to the aviation, in airlines, what do we own? Most of the airlines don't even own the aircraft or the slots or whatever it is. So what we own is data. All we got, if we have a database of about 5-10 million customers, that's what we do. So airlines have been reinventing themselves for the last, even long before the lockdown, because it's very important for you to survive. And I picked up this word I've heard from the professor, hyper-personalization. So what has happened is today's customers are more demanding thanks to technology, and they want personalized service. And they also want to pay the best price or to get the best deal like any other industry. So airlines have been working on a lot of solutions to satisfy the customer. That's the only way that you can retain your customers when you're competing. So they have embarked on a lot of projects like with the industry data. But during the pandemic, what happened was we had to look at certain quick fixes, like, contactless travel technologies and all that we had to implement. So those, so quick fix, but now even today, what has happened is we are developing and we are evolving on those systems we developed a couple of years ago, 2 years ago. So this is going to be the norm going forward. Like people would want to go to the checking in counter, they would want to look at the mobile app and do checking in, bring the boarding pass, drop the bags, and go. So that's my answer.
Thank you, Vipula. That's really great, and I can see a lot of change happening in your industry as a whole. Rajiv, yours is one of the most envious industries for people like me. There is never a bad time for beer, and especially Lion beer if you're Sri Lankan. So tell us a little bit about how you had to transform your business during COVID and what you had to do to sort of satisfy the thirst of so many COVID-struck people.
Good point, Nick. I think still people can't have virtual beer. It's we have still not got to that platform. Well, let me tell you a bit about the beer industry. The problem is, Nick, although it is a beverage, it has also a lot of regulation attached to it, simply due to the fact that because it is alcoholic beverage. So therefore, it is not there are so many constraints which are put on to the industry in terms of interacting and having experiential platforms and transactions with consumers. And there are a lot of restrictions, and it is prescribed by law. So sometimes what an industry like, let's say, a soft drink, what you can do, we can't do in the beer industry. So during that time, I think one of the main things what we had to do based on what were the context as well as the type of regulation which exists in Sri Lanka, one of the main things what we developed was we developed a lot of especially service delivery approaches where we were able to inform consumers digitally in terms of where they could buy and how they could buy alcoholic beverages, right? And this was one of the main things we actually did. And that is all what we can do, to be very honest. Right? That's all what we can do. But I think there'll be a lot more other areas, Nick, which I can actually add on in the other questions when we get into of how the beer industry within those constraints of the regulation and the law of how we can bring those digital experiences and those digital interactions into play. But the question what you asked during COVID, there was very limited things what the industry can do because of the prescribed law and regulations within the industry.
Fantastic. I'm going to skip to the next question that I have, and then I'm going to invite you, Karim, to speak a little bit about that. So customers now benchmark the best digital experience that they've ever had. But being the best in the industry is sort of no longer good enough, right? They're now benchmarking against banks. In my case, is the insurance. They look at the banks and say, oh, that's the experience we expect now. And so how do you see large companies in Sri Lanka balancing this highly increased expectations from customers with delivering long-term scalable experiences? I know you've been in a disruptive field, so maybe you can spend a minute telling us a little bit about what you do, and then answer my question as well. And Kanika, you're next to answer the same question since you have a lot of insights across many industries. Please. Hi, you're on mute, Karim.
Sorry. Yeah. So we are in the software development industry, and we specialize in developing softwares for hospitality industry. And before COVID, we were doing a lot of R&D for how to digitally transform the industry. There was a lot of adoption in the airline, a lot of industry, as you said, Wise, Revolut. Everybody wants time to kind of digital experience, but the hotels were a bit laid back about adopting this. But we were already doing R&D on this. But as COVID hit, everybody wanted to get on digital space. Everybody wanted to have a digital experience for their guest. And then the guests were demanding this experience as well. There was a lot of health declaration forms. There was COVID passes. There was tests. There was a lot of communication which hotel has to do digitally, and then a lot of automated communication as well. A lot of time we didn't know that if I'm going to Dubai, do I need a test? Do I need this? Do I need that? So if somebody books the room, if the bot can automatically, depending on the region, depending on their location, depending on when are they traveling, if they can send the right information at the right time, automate the entire process, this really helps. This really assures the end consumer that they can have a safe travel on this. So that helped. A lot of things which we prepared already for that, for the hotel industry, the hotels adopting. Now coming back to Sri Lanka, we work very closely with Jetwings hotels. Now they are completely transforming everything from the digital experience, from the minute the guest books until he books again. So the books, comes, stays, check in, check out, and then when he books again, the entire digital experience, they are learning about it. We are getting a lot of data now where we are learning as well on this basis as well. So Sri Lanka is adopting it really fast. The entire industry is adopted really fast, and as a software, we are already thinking what's next. We are working on a lot of IoT now. After digital experience, what's next is complete IoT on that basis. If you are in the room, can you order that? Can you order this? Can you control your curtains? Can you control your room? And this way. So again, on our side, a lot of we are spending about 80% of what we are earning back to an R&D because things are changing so fast. So there's a lot of pressure on us. The demands have increased based on IoT, based on virtual reality, based on augmented reality, and things are changing fast. So I'm happy about it, and Sri Lanka is adopting very well as well.
Thank you so much, Karim. And it sounds like you found a good niche during the crisis, and of course, you can see a lot of adoption. Jochen, I can see you smiling. I mean, because I think what he described was precisely what you talked about, that bank in New Zealand, right? I mean, because using RPA and many other tools to sort of automate exactly the experience. So did you have anything to add?
No, absolutely. I mean, a hotel is a beautiful example, or even things like spa. I mean, that is where you have personal touch, literally. So, I mean, even for these kind of services, the before and the after, the reservation, the information, all of this, that can be all digital. The payment can be all digital. But in between, you want to have the personal touch. And I think it's the art is to know when to add personal touch and when not to, and when to make it digital. And I think that's one dimension. The other dimension is, of course, always then what are the costs involved? If the customer doesn't pay for the cost, then, I mean, they may have certain preferences. But let's say if you price personal service higher than automated service, a lot of people will switch to the automated service. Yeah, I mean, I know banks in Germany. I was a banker in my first career, and I mean, we at that time we gave ordinary customers sort of one face-to-face teller transaction free per month. The second one was a euro, you know. So people only came maximum once a month.
That's a horrible customer experience, I must say.
No, it was okay actually, because it depends what type of customer you are. If you're a mass customer, already we make no money on a mass customer. And we told them, look, the online banking is free, telebanking is free, ATM banking is free.
So don't come to the teller, basically.
Don't come to see us. Yeah.
That's fair. That's fair. Thank you for that, Jochen. Kanika, you obviously, as part of BCG, get to see so many industries. I think you had some experience in the FMCG industry yourself as well. So maybe you can shed a little bit more light, you know, how you're seeing things evolve across many different industries in this whole space of digitized customer service.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right when you said that the benchmark which consumers have now on digital experience is what it is not dependent on what industry they're talking about or what category they're dealing with. The benchmark is being set by the Amazons of the world or the Netflix of the world. So when consumers are thinking digital experience, their expectation is that it will be as simple as it is to use these platforms. You know, it will be as flexible as these platforms are, you know, if they need to make any changes to their requirements, and it'll be as personalized, you know, as these platforms are. So as we worked with our clients, and I end up working across sectors quite broadly, we've seen that what companies in our work with our clients, we are also trying to do is that when we are building our digital experiences for companies, it's based on the same themes. You know, it's based on the same themes of simplicity, personalization, flexibility, right? That's what a digital experience has to offer to a consumer. So when we are working with our clients in, let's say, banking and financial services space, it's about saying that it's not just about being available online. It's also about saying that how you showcase your product to the consumer online has to be very simple for the consumer to understand. So, you know, no bylines, you know, no detailed 10-pointer, documents for consumers to go through. But can you explain your insurance product very simply to the consumer? Similarly, when we are working with our when we are, for example, we are working with this large restaurant chain, and it was about saying that how can you make your offers very personalized for your consumers. So basis all the transaction data that they have about which consumer is coming back when or which days of the week, what time, for what drink or what food, can you actually come up with personalized offers for your consumers. So it sounds like, it makes more sense for the consumer and there's a higher chance of conversion. So I think what we are doing with our clients is actually taking these themes of what best in class digital experiences mean for consumers and trying to see what the implication of that in different context of industries would be, and develop solutions from there.
That's really great, and it sounds like a lot going on. Yeah, Rajiv, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, Nick, I've got a point to make on this,
Yeah.
and this is more in regard to what happened over the last 2 years in regard to Sri Lanka. I feel that this is maybe a controversial statement. What I'm going to make is that although we were talking that we have a view that there was exponential movement in terms of digital transformation of companies, what I think really took place was that basically people had cobbled together basically e-commerce solutions, right? Linked up and cobbled that also into a logistics solution and just tried to sort out the immediate issue. So is that really going to be able to scale up, right? And to really provide those digital experiences that so-called delighting customers? I don't think that is what really took place. That's what really took place. Most companies did short fixes, and I think all of them will have to start really relooking at what they have done before they actually move forward, because most of the time, I mean, I think we have experienced that none of those solutions will you be able to scale up, like what Professor said, in terms of delivering those delightful experiences. And that's something which all the companies in Sri Lanka will have to relook at. And that's really not digital transformation in my books.
So Rajiv, you make a very good point. It's not controversial at all. Actually, there is that sort of reversion to the old ways as we went out of lockdown, and that, as the customer was able to be more free, I guess there was a segment of customers that sort of had no choice, and hence they had to use the tools that were available. But I would disagree with you a little bit, actually. I disagree with you quite a bit, because a large number of customers have moved on to different things. I'll give you a real example, right? In my own office, even in my own very senior leadership team, there used to be some executives that would cut a check and send it down for their cable bill payment or for their phone bill payment. They're not doing that ever again, right? Same thing if you look at how we are making, reservations online for Vipula's airline industry. And I'll take my own. For example, during the pandemic, we encouraged all our customers to switch to credit cards or standing instructions, so that they didn't have to go through this pain of paying their premiums in physical form. That's stuck. That is stuck with us, and that's been great for us as an experience, because we don't have to issue cash receipts. We don't have to receive customers. We've actually, to Jochen's point, we have actually eliminated that line of customers that used to come, stand, and pay their payments physically. So I do agree with you, but I think it's a journey, and so I think the journey will keep changing. Jochen, look, you sound like you're about to say something, and I interrupted you. Go ahead. Okay, cool.
Can I say something? Nikhil, I think I would agree with you also. It's a journey we started. Maybe Sri Lanka was somewhat behind. So because of that, we got to look at certain quick fixes. But you take what happened during the last 2 years. All the Amazon, Flipkart, everybody, emerge, and their profits surge. So it's because now all what we need to do is continue on this journey.
But I agree with you, Rajiv, because it's the start. It's not the end.
No, that's right. The point I was trying to make is that we have to review what we have done and have a more long-term roadmap of where we want to get through, and to see whether what we have done can be scaled up, right, to meet those the end point, what we want to do. Because some of the solutions which we may have done during this short time in order to get over the problem may not be the solution for you to take it take forward.
Totally agree with you. And I can tell you again from just experience, we created a sort of a band-aid solution to accept policy applications during the first lockdown for the first 90 or 100 days. We quickly changed that around and made it more industrialized and more stable than it was before. So you're right. And I'm sure, Jochen, you might have some sort of good lessons to share with us about test and learn and fail fast. So maybe you can spend a couple minutes on how we should be viewing this on short-term versus long-term, and how should we learn, and what is that journey? I mean, let's take your school. I'm sure you didn't get the robot right on the first go, right? So give us a little bit more color on that.
Yeah, I mean, this is really the expertise of my two co-authors. I mean, Ian Barkin, he was a founder of a call center automation startup, which he sold for tens of millions of dollars to Sykes-Picot, then who was a C-level for many years. And Ian Pascal with McKinsey, he was the founder and head of the robotics and AI practice here in Asia. But so the key message is always, I mean, don't be too ambitious. So focus on pretty well-defined, well-scoped problems where you know that you can do something about it, right? I think that's sort of the thing is don't go wholesale. Go on very the typical burning platform story and how do you manage change from Kotta. I think that these recommendations hold, but I think on top of that, it is really number one, being focused on things you can do fast. If you don't have an ROI on a intelligent automation implementation in 10 months, it's too long. So it has to be stuff that you can do really fast. And I don't know the softwares. I mean, they're in the book with Pascal. I mean, but there is pretty much automated stuff now which you can install on your desktop to identify pretty quickly what are the processes a particular person does that could be there could be an RPA solution. And I think the thing is, again, I mean, bottom up, top down. So top down, I think you need to identify really, let's say you say we want to digitize, you want to move people to apps, to the website, to self-service. How do we do that? And that's more than automation. I mean, I had so many students from Google. I mean, I run executive MBA programs. I had so many students from Google in it. And Google to me is the world champion in seamless and robust self-service. And I was so impressed. I mean, one of my students, she's running Google for, I think it's Thailand, Indonesia, Malaysia. I forgot, it was 3 Southeast Asian countries. But they implemented their AdWords, a self-service technology for SMEs to build their own campaigns. I mean, look, as consumers, we are not very, we don't generate much revenue for Google, so they're not going to talk to us. But even advertisers, where they get money, they're revenue-generating entities or customers, they're also being pushed to completely scalable solutions. And she showed us, I mean, basically with 3 questions, and you're a local ice cream parlor, you can geo-zone who you talk to. You can look at the demographics who you can talk to. You can set your advertising budget. So with 3 questions and 3 clicks, you're in business. So that means if you want to have really scalable automation, it starts with your products. And I mean, Google has sort of 3 principles. The first one is addressable market, 1 billion customers globally. The second is, they call it the toothbrush test. Customers need it twice a day. And so if you think about this, 1 billion customers twice a day, you can never hire enough customer service staff if these customers ever need to talk to you. So the service, and the third one is, they call this the Swiss Army knife principle. That means 1 tool for 1 problem. So it's very different from Microsoft, where everything is intertwined, right? Because if let's say I use Google Scholar for academics, you have Gmail, you have Google Search, you have AdWords, but these are pretty much standalone solutions that are not really integrated with anything else. And the reason is, if it is, and the design is so simple and so robust, you don't have that many options. And the reason is why it's easy for developers to work with it and don't create bugs and problems. And it's easy for customers to work with them and not getting lost. I mean, and most apps are like this. If you get stuck, what do? You close the app, you restart. You don't talk to someone. I have a problem, right? So I think when you go into, you want to develop and move into scalable solutions, that means probably your service products have to become simpler. Your policies have to become simpler, you know. So it's not just technology. It starts already with, do I really need to have this option? And I mean, I learned this year. I mean, one of my heroes in service is the National Library Board in Singapore. And for example, they said, we don't take credit cards, we don't take cash. The only way you can pay with us is a cash card, which is every Singaporean has a cash card because you use it for public transport, for parking, for electronic road pricing is one card. And that's the only way you can pay. And why? What did they do is they have book branches, library branches. There's not a single customer facing staff in there. Return of books, a checkout of books, all of that is self-service and including payment. But I mean, initially there was a lot of pushback from members of the library, from the public, from staff. How can you force people with only one payment mechanism? But the CEO, I mean, he was a practice professor at the business school. He was nine years CEO who did this digital transformation. He just said, look, you know, I can't hire enough staff for checkout if suddenly people give me coins and credit cards and cash cards and other stuff. And he just made the discussion. I mean, of course, then how do you sell it to customers is another way. I mean, of course, you want to put a positive spin of it. Look, it's going to be faster now. We can keep the costs down. We can invest the money into better books and solutions and e-library and film library and God knows what. But sometimes there have to be hard options. And I tell this everyone, if you add options and functionality, there's a cost in terms of complexity, which then translates into customer errors. So stuff is not customer error tolerant anymore. And it translates into operational issues and development issues in-house. So, I mean, there's a long answer to a simple question here, but it's not technology. It goes deeper into products, policies, processes. They have to be designed in a way that they can actually be robust and scalable and self-service.
Jochen, thank you. A very comprehensive answer. Actually leads to a very good question for the panel. And I'm going to ask each of you to volunteer who wants to go next on this one. But you know, the big question from my own experience is that customer experience is a team sport. The CEO cannot sit in his office and say, we want great customer experience. And so the entire organization, to your point, has to align the culture to understand how to deliver this, you know, whether it's a combination of using technology, whether it's actually having people or a hybrid model or something, or just changing the culture and the mindset. So, you know, for each of you who are transforming your organizations, Vipula, Rajiv, and Kanika, you would have seen a lot more across the board. You know, what are the challenges you're experiencing in realigning the culture of service and changing that whole mindset, just like you said? You know, it's that CEO, I think he's a very brave man to say, I'm only going to accept one form of payment. So who wants to, Karim? Sorry, you've disappeared from the screen, but go ahead, Karim. I think you want to go first.
Yeah, hi. So we do a lot of onboarding for a lot of hotel groups across the board. And we have to get the front desk, get the reservation team to adopt automation and get them to, because they are the one who is focusing on the digital experience. When we deliver the message that it's saving you time to them, it's creating more opportunities for you, and it's creating more revenue for you, everyone comes on board on this. And you'll be surprised that a lot of time, a lot of different ideas we have received from, yes, of course, top down, we received a lot of ideas, but the bottom up as well, we have received a lot of ideas from that. So as we said, that the Amazon and Netflix of the world, they have trained a lot of people have adopted to it. Now they want to bring the same culture shift to their own companies as well. And we saw a lot of enthusiasm to adopt to different technology. So there is a bit of resistance somewhere, but again, a lot of people are interested in getting more automation to save more time and generate more revenue.
Sorry, Rajiv, would you like to go next, or Vipula, would you like to go next?
Sure, I'll go next, Nick. I think in case of my organization right now, what we are actually working on is a more out-in type of approach, where we are in the process of completely defining the customer journey. The customer the customer interaction points with the business. Now, when you take a beer, there can be so many interaction points which a consumer has with that beer. It could be at the retail point, it could be at the pub, it could be at so many points at which the customer interacts. And that journey of the customer, the mapping of that journey and of how he interacts is very important as a start point. Because without knowing that, if you start a more in-out approach, where you actually start, doing certain things within the business without knowing of how the customer is actually moving and interacting, what we've seen is that we can't align the back end to actually provide those delightful consumer experiences. So right now we are actually in the process of defining this customer journey, identifying the touch points at which the customer interacts with the company, then actually looking at solutions which can actually work in those interaction points, and then work ourselves backwards right up to supply chain of how do we actually align that whole thing in order to provide that delightful customer experiences. So that's where we are right now, and that's the type of roadmap we are setting ourselves up on.
That's fantastic. I guess the whole organization is shifting towards that whole vision of how you want to see the customer delight. And frankly, who would have thought about a bottle of beer or a can of beer being that important in the regards of how it's delivered in terms of experience? Because
absolutely, and it's
fantastic.
becoming more and more important, Nick, because there are so many things what you can actually use to delight the consumer in terms of that beer what he consumes.
Yeah, I don't drink anymore, but I remember getting a warm beer just isn't any fun. I have to say that. And so for you to be delivering a beer at every point of sale that's chilled, I guess that's got to be one of the things you are trying to achieve, right?
I mean, a good example, Nick, is that we are trying to establish technology right over the country to see where we will actually get basically some kind of messaging if beer in a certain cooler is not at the right temperature.
Wow.
Right? And automatically what happens is there's a push to the retailer immediately in terms of sorting out that problem. Wow. So that's a very good example of that, and we are working on that right now.
That is magic, and your customers are going to keep loving you.
I hope they continue doing that.
I'm positive they will. I'm positive they will. Vipula, you were about to say something, and Kanika, don't think I've forgotten you, because I want to come back. I know you've done a mega survey around this stuff, so I want to end with you on that one. But go ahead, Vipula.
I think because there are many customer touch points in the customer journey, as Rajiv said, that you have to define each and every customer touch point and address them. That includes, sales, booking, marketing, and even getting the refund. So the finance people have to be well aware. If you delay a refund, then that's going to affect your customer. One thing I want to tell Rajiv is I didn't enjoy during the lockdown because all the pubs were closed. So at least that is something we need, the physical contact.
Yeah, absolutely. And the problem is we can't even deliver it through e-commerce because that's also regulated.
Yeah, now that concern is there even in my industry, like things like security checks, right?
Yep.
Still, it's not contactless. You have to go through, take your belts out, shoes out, and all that. So those things will be there. But of course, again, very soon, some airports are going to, change all that. There'll be eye contacts, what you call. So they are developing all that. Very soon, maybe 3 to 5 years time, we'll have even contactless security. So
fantastic, Vipula. Kanika, come on now, tell us, what are you seeing? I believe BCG is sort of doing all this wonderful survey all over the world and especially in Asia. What are you seeing and what are the trends you can talk about and share with the with all the people watching today?
Yeah, sure. So see, we've been doing a lot of research with consumers, trying to understand how they are looking at digital, where they are comfortable adopting digital, where they are not comfortable adopting digital, across different products, categories, etc. I think overall, the messaging around the fact that there has been a massive adoption and consumers are increasingly becoming more and more comfortable. I think that we all are aware of, and that obviously holds true through all of our research as well. What has been interesting has been a couple of things. One, we've seen that the profile of consumer who was comfortable with online has changed quite a lot over the last maybe just 1 to 2 years. So even if I look back, 2 years ago, a lot of the what I could say as the more comfortable digital users were still the more metro, younger, relatively more affluent consumers, was the consumer who you could tap into using digital as a way of as a primary way of reaching out. But increasingly, especially I think driven by COVID, over the last 2 years, what we've seen is that that profile has actually fundamentally changed. Now we are seeing people belonging to older age groups, people belonging to more the middle class or even below, who are actually increasingly becoming very, very comfortable using digital in a lot of their communication, especially even if not everything on digital, especially things like messaging, social media, chats, those are things that they are extremely comfortable with. So one, I think fundamentally, till a couple of years back, there was this constraint as we were talking to our clients to say that using digital, you can only reach out to a niche consumer segment. I think now that's increasingly, not remaining true. Secondly, what we are also seeing is that the new users, earlier, so we had defined this concept called digital age, which is that how long does, from the first time that when a person uses internet to the time that the person becomes comfortable using internet to engage commercially with products and services, how long is that period? And when we had done this research a couple of years back, we had seen that the duration was as long as 3 to 4 years. So from the first time I used, let's say, a Facebook, or for the first time I used a WhatsApp, from then to for me to make my first, let's say, ticket purchase online, or for me to actually go and buy something, some cloth online, or whatever it could be, that duration was 3 to 4 years. Now we are increasingly seeing that the duration has become much shorter. That duration now is as short as 1 to 2 years. So this journey of becoming comfortable with online, to use digital, to engage commercially with brands is becoming much faster. So people are, just I think again going back to the larger point of saying that using digital to reach out to any kind of consumers, and even consumers who are relatively new online is a big opportunity. Of course, what we are seeing is that some of these consumer segments, when they're coming online, what they expect from online is slightly different, or they need a little bit of a assisted phase before they become fully comfortable. And we are seeing this a lot, especially in context of e-commerce, as we are working with our clients, that this new consumer profile which is coming online, they are not as comfortable directly going onto a website and buying things, right? They want an option to chat with somebody. So even if that other person, even if there is no physical interface, but they feel like if they can ask somebody, then they would be more comfortable going ahead and making that purchase. And that's why this surge of, WhatsApp-led buying, social media-led buying, which is happening, especially with this new kind of consumers coming online. So, yeah, I think lots of interesting stuff happening. We've actually worked with a lot of companies, both in the product space as well as services space now, to build out businesses using digital. I think one of the points, Rajiv, that I guess you were making was around the consumer journeys. That's something which is happening across the board. To the question, Nikhil, you were asking earlier about challenges, especially from a skill perspective that we are seeing. I think there is a little bit of a hard skill learning around just being comfortable with digital. I think that is easier to solve. The biggest challenge that we are seeing is this attitude of being okay, like being agile, just trying out things, testing it out, failing, learning, adapting, and then retesting, right? Just that thing of, because typically as brands, we are all used to, if you have to take a brand decision, there has to be like this big study which has to be done over multiple months, all kinds of combinations have to be tested, possibilities have to be tested, and then you take a call. I think increasingly in the digital world, things are moving so fast that companies don't have that much time to act. So I think just the biggest challenge that we are seeing from a culture perspective is just adapting to this mindset of that it's okay to try out, work with an MVP, don't look for perfection, work with an MVP, try it out, and test it. And if it fails, learn from it and then try again.
Any reactions from the panel on what Kanika says? Try out, try till you succeed, I guess, or fail fast. Any thoughts from there? So actually, while you're contemplating that, very insightful response, there was a question from one of the viewers to the panelists, and I decide whoever wants to go for it first. Why are people going back 2 years, back to the old ways? Has tech failed, or has the CEO failed in convincing the organization to move on?
I think just to give a very short and sweet answer, people are not going back to the old ways. They are changing. Like a lot of things have changed, so they're adapting to new technologies. It's the convenience because the customers. So this technology has created a lot of convenience and options. As I told you earlier, that there are a lot of empowerment. So you've got choices to make. So very few people are going back to the good old ways of doing things. At the same time, I mean, like Rajiv said, I mean, in my industry, there are certain challenges, like security was one example, where we have to go back to old ways of doing until the new technology like biometrics is implemented.
Any other reactions?
I don't have a disagreement with that, Nick. I think it's spot on. I don't think we are ever going to go back.
Yeah,
it's only going to just go forward. But I think from where that question comes from are some, I would say, let's call it some possible tweaks or problems which arose with the way we came up with these quick fixes.
yeah.
But that should not in some way, I would say, cloud the fact that change has come and change is going to continue.
Totally agree with you. And I mean, I don't know which viewer asked that question, because I don't think we have gone back, and I don't think we are going back, in Sri Lanka for sure. I mean, but that leads to sort of how many? We got like 2 minutes left. I'm going to ask one last question, maybe extend, Dinesh, with your permission, or sorry, Sarah, with your permission, and Rolf, with your permission, maybe for 3 or 4 minutes extra. But, I guess final question from me, right, is skills, right? This whole digital journey isn't even the professor was talking about, all these apps, just bring them together and bang them together and magic happens. Yes, maybe, but trying to get industrialized scale in some of these things isn't that easy, and finding the right skill sets to build it all together and sort of reinvent together is kind of hard to find, I think. And so what are you guys doing about finding the right people in technology and customer experience, and how are you going about sort of transforming your teams to be able to do that? Vipula, both on your old hat as Sri Lankan CEO and your new hat as CFO of the new 9W.
So I think it's a challenge finding the people to define and map the requirements. Right? Thereafter, development and all that. Today with technology, you got enough add-ons. So now we are looking at a PSS system, the main system. The challenge is mapping the journey, defining each and every process. So that takes a lot of time. That's where the human skill is required. Thereafter, there are a lot of add-on applications to enhance your total solution. But again, finding people it's a challenge.
Indeed, indeed. Rajiv and then Karim.
Quickly, Nick, I think this is also, I just agree with Vipula in terms of it's a huge challenge, but I think it's overall, it's a big challenge for our the way the whole industry looks at building skills amongst our people, because technology is here to stay. Now, example, when I now currently look at recruiting a marketing person, I actually spend more time looking at to see whether the conversants in terms of capabilities in technology rather than the more marketing side of it, because the marketing side is much more easier, and it's a lot more easier to get the person, I mean, to onboard the person and move the person. And that's one of the main things right now. What we are doing is that most of the recruitments, what we are taking in, we are looking to see the skill and capability on the technology front, and I have made that mandatory in marketing. So, I mean, we have been recruiting completely now. For example, those days you would tend to go and get people from Unilever, Nestle's in order to support the FMCG business. Now, actually, we are looking at not those businesses, but businesses which have done e-commerce, technology companies. We are actually recruiting marketing people from technology companies right now, in order to bring that type of change within the organization. And the main focus right now has been in marketing.
That's fantastic. I mean, that, I think that's a bold move on your part, Rajiv, to be able to do that, because that, I think, will lead to a lot of transformation. Yeah, I think we get stuck in finding the guy from Unilever that knows advertising, but I think it's beyond that now. You're spot on. Sorry, Rolf, we're going to have one more question, if you don't mind. Before I get to the next one, Karim, do you have anything else to add on to
Yeah, just a quick one, because we are doing a lot of R&D on our side to what's next. And when we do R&D, it's our job to make sure that we educate the end user as well, which is our hotels, which are the staff, the team. When we do the R&D, we have a plan how to educate the end user as well. So learning skills, that's going to be our main challenge, yes, but it will be, I think it's a process.
Yeah, no, and educating a customer is actually not an understated point, because if they don't know how to use what you're going to deliver, it's not going to be a satisfying experience for them. So spot on. I mean, that's awesome. Kanika, I'm not going to ask you this one, but there's another question that's come in, and they're coming in fast and furious. Rolf, I can't stop it. I mean, these guys are just coming, and I'm enjoying this so much. So let's go for another 5 minutes. Is that okay with you guys? And then Rajiv can buy us an awesome Lion beer at some place we'll agree on later on. The question is, any insights on how companies are managing the onslaught of social media when a company screws up in service delivery? You might replace company with government, but let's stick to a company for now. Questions, thoughts? How are companies managing the onslaught of social media when a company screws up in service delivery? Kanika, what have you seen from the world of consulting?
Yeah. So I think social media in general is a hot topic these days. I kind of alluded to it earlier as well in context of consumers. See, there is both good and bad. Because the question was more on the bad. Let me try and answer that first. In cases where company has done something bad, which results in some negative coverage on social media, I think the best that we've seen companies do is to acknowledge, apologize, and try and move on. I think that is the best. I think trying to ignore it, trying to brush it under the carpet doesn't work, because things just get completely out of control when it comes to social media. So the best that we've seen is just companies, if it is a genuine mistake, and sometimes it's just consumers venting out in situations and for things that they were not happy with. I think the best is to just respond and apologize or clarify or whatever the situation might be. Just do that.
Vipula, airlines are famous for
Oh,
dealing
yes.
with this sort of thing. So So maybe you can shed a little bit more light. Sorry, Kanika, didn't mean to
Yeah.
cut you off.
I think it's a 24/7 job. So I can give you two examples. You got to be proactive and upfront. You should never try to hide the facts. I can give one example how Tony Fernandez handled the AIA crash. He was emotional, he was factual, he was upfront, right? Same we take the example of BP, what happened in Mexico or someplace long years ago. So you got to be, but you got to be proactive. It's a 24/7 job, but at the same time, you got to be upfront and honest about it.
I would
We all
add
make
that,
mistakes.
yeah, I would add that you have to have a plan, because I don't think you can come up with a plan. So companies must have a strategy on what they're going to do when they're going to do it. So that's great. That's a great point, Vipula. And your industry in particular, even I've had to
Yes.
complain against Delta and many other airlines online, and it always works because you get stuff done afterwards. Karim, thoughts from you?
Yeah, for hotels, we get a lot of comments. So everybody wants to tell us about their, how's the experience in the hotels, how's the experience from check-in, check-out, everything. What we suggest is never ignore any negative comments. Don't ignore. Reply, explain yourself, and don't give fake promises or don't give false promises. If you build on that, if you reply sincerely, if you apologize, if you have something has been wrong, something has gone horribly wrong, then apologize. As straightforward as that.
Yeah, no, what I'm hearing universally to the viewer who asked the question is be honest, be genuine, and address the issue up front, and then move on. I think that's pretty much. And to my point, have a plan on how to do that.
And just to add on, Nick, I think Vipula mentioned this clearly. You have to be truthful. You can't skirt the issue.
Yeah.
You have to be truthful, and it has to be absolutely also verifiable. Because you say something and it's not verifiable, you'll have 100 more other problems on your hand.
So guys, Kanika, any
The
last
last
words?
thing I would add is reply instantly. Just don't delay. Don't delay it. It's a 24/7 job. Yes. If something has gone wrong, approach it as quick as possible.
It's definitely, you're right, and we live in the 24/7 world now. It's no longer the 9 to 5 or 9 to 6 days. Those days are over. Rolf, there are more questions coming, and I'm getting a lot of pressure from these viewers, but I'm at your disposal to see whether you would like to continue or the panel is even free to continue. I'm not sure. I'm at a loose end, of course, this evening. Rajiv, hint, beer, but
I'm just seeing the beer.
I'm teasing you. I don't
Me.
even drink. No,
shall we do one last round? If there's an interesting question, one last round, and then we wind up from there.
All right, let's just final thoughts from the panel. We'll start with you, Kanika. Just your final thoughts on service marketing using digitization, automation. What should companies think about? You got like 45 seconds max.
So I think for service companies, digital is a great opportunity to differentiate in the minds of the consumer. I think what they need to do is to think about the entire journey of the consumer end to end, and there are sometimes it requires them to expand beyond strictly speaking the scope of what they might think their service is and enter into new partnerships, create mini ecosystems around themselves to deliver on that entire journey end to end. But I think that is what is required to really differentiate in the minds of the consumer. And yeah, I think that's 45 seconds, so I'll stop there.
Fantastic. You stuck to the time. Karim, Vipula, Karim, Rajiv, who wants to go next? Vipula?
Yeah, I think because you can personalize the customer expectations and you can make more money if you get it right. Take ancillaries in airlines, like you can choose your seat, you can choose your meal, and you make more money.
So there's a good commercial benefit for using.
Oh yes, yeah.
That's great. Karim, sounds like you want to go next.
As I said previously, if you can deliver the message that you will get more revenue, there is an untapped revenue which you can get, as I said, ancillary revenue, and then saving costs and saving time as well on that. So not only saving, but extra revenue as well. So everyone benefits in the chain.
Absolutely. Rajiv?
Nick, very quickly, I think a very important point I need to make in regard to FMCG marketing is, and it's a point which all FMCG marketers must not lose sight of, is that it's technology and all this transformation is not only about devices for an FMCG marketer. That in-store presence is also not to be forgotten. So therefore, technologies which can give great experiences in store are also extremely important for a FMCG marketer. And if you can integrate this virtual world and the physical world together, that will be nirvana for a FMCG marketer.
It's coming, by the way. It's called the metaverse already, so it's happening.
That's what I was alluding to.
Yeah, no, you're spot on, and maybe you can have a beer in the metaverse. Who knows? Last but not least, our final, feedback and comments from Sarah or Rolf, on from a Sri Lanka Institute director's perspective. What are your final words for us before I hand back to you? Or Radhika?
I would like to take the opportunity. Thank you very much, Nikhil. Fantastic moderation. I really enjoyed the session, with leading people from the academia, from the research, from CEOs of leading industries like Airline, Vipula, thank you so much, Rajiv, Beverage, Kanika Consulting, Karim Software, and of course, Nikhil, one of the largest insurance companies, I guess, in Sri Lanka. So thanks a lot. It was super interesting. I enjoyed the show. And with that, I would like to hand over the winding up proceedings to Radhika. Radhika is the CEO of SLID itself. So over to you, Radhika.
Thank you. Thank you so much to the fantastic panel. Professor Jochen, if you do watch the recording later on, our sincere thanks to you for accepting our invitation. First of all, let me apologize for the first couple of minutes of this session where we had a couple of technical issues with the live streaming, but the recording will be up on the SLID page and the Daily FD page for those of you who missed the first couple of minutes of the session. So thanks once again to the panel, to Kanika, to Karim, Vipula, Rajiv, and last but not least, Nikhil. I know it's literally your last few hours in your current role and you're stepping out to your next. So thank you so much for giving us your time, and we sincerely look forward to engaging with you further. We hope this is not the last we hear from all of you. We had some fantastic insights into what the future holds for the customer experience, and great. I think the questions speak for themselves. We really look forward to hearing more from you in the future. Thank you to our sponsors, ACCA, CS Sri Lanka, Daily FD, for coming on board as our program partners. So thank you, and with that, have a good night.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye. Cheers. Bye.
Thank you.
We designed smarter ways to grow the food we wanted to eat. And perfected science to make it last longer. The ways that we choose to eat keep evolving. Food has now become an intimate part of our lives. It brings us together and shows how much we care, connects communities, and builds livelihoods for millions around the globe. But what if we could go further? What if we could trace the journey our food takes to better understand the impact it has on our planet, to make more sustainable food choices, transcend the limitations of time and space, to create a future of boundless abundance, and push the technology that enables food service to its next frontier? What if we could better connect the world to share food and care for one another? At Cisco Labs, we're finding solutions to do just this. Because the technology that moves food moves human civilization.
They say life is amazing, but perhaps more amazing is how we respond to it. Together, we witness the birth of a new millennium. Together, we made it through and finished a 30-year war. And together, we stood against floods, landslides, and cyclones. Even after the tsunami that we'd never heard of before, we are standing strong. Together, we have come far, and now we take on a global pandemic. Life may be unpredictable, but hope illuminates our hearts. However challenging life may seem today, we know tomorrow will be brighter. The H&B Assurance Group is proud to have journeyed together with you for 20 years, providing life and general insurance solutions that give you the protection and assurance you need. Now with even greater stability, reflected by an upgraded A+ Fitch rating. Your trust in us has proven to be well placed in the grand journey behind us, and for the exciting one ahead.
There is no point being a king if your health is not of one. Live a worry-free life with quality health insurance. The smartest thing you can do to live a healthy life is to have a health insurance that protects you from the unknown.
Let us tell you why. An annual cover of up to 50 million rupees is not a small thing, right?
Exactly.
With us, you have the option of selecting from 26 flexible insurance options ranging from 100,000 to 50 million rupees.
Wow, how great!
Cashless settlements are not just in Sri Lanka, but all across the world.
No way.
Ambulance charges will also be covered.
Oh, wow.
Exactly. Then what about the OPD cover?
Is it only for Western medicine?
No. Licensed Ayurvedic hospitals too.
Oh, how great.
And on the years you don't intimate a claim, you are entitled to a no-claim bonus.
Oh, that's amazing. But what if we've claimed the limit?
You have the option to top up to 100% again.
So if I've claimed to the limit and I need to be hospitalized?
If you have maxed out your annual sum assured due to hospitalization, you are still entitled to 100% of the sum assured if the reason to be hospitalized is not related to the previous.
Wow, that's so great.
Along with all of these, this insurance can be used to cover surgeries, organ transplants, organ donations, chemotherapy, dialysis, and radiology treatments. This consists of these benefits including dental care, optical care, maternity care, and private or government hospital charges. Even if you are not hospitalized, you can still claim the treatments you had to undergo. This is H&B Assurance Supreme Health Max Insurance. What do you think?
I think it's definitely a must-have.
Besides, H&B is a name that has been famous since our grandfather's time.
Actually, H&B has operated for over 100 years and has won the hearts of people as a trusted brand name, and that is why H&B Assurance has won the hearts of everyone for over 20 years.
Also, H&B Assurance's financial strength has been rewarded with an A+ Fitch rating, bringing a service of trust and reliability from us to you. H&B Assurance.